Witty, thought-provoking, and uplifting, Southern Soul Live Stream is a program that you'll invite your friends over to watch every week, where you'll learn about interesting guests and get to share in their fascinating experiences. Tune in each Thursday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern to connect with guests from across the generations and to laugh with our eclectic hosts who are as charming as they are talented. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's our host, Calvin.
Next up, April. April, what is up,
Hey.
girl? What is up? So, the Kappas are all in the house tonight. You know what I
Oh,
mean? So we're gonna have to, do our thing, so we're gonna have to figure this
listen,
thing out.
all
Yes,
day.
yes, yes. But April, you've been doing your thing for a while, but I'm excited because I watch you, right? I watch you grow, I watch you do your thing. And one thing I love about you is that you've been doing your corporate thing.
Mhm.
And you've been doing your side hustle thing, but I don't want to tell your whole story. Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience? Let us know who you are and tell us something about yourself.
Awesome. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I have been on a few times, and I do know that you guys talk a little bit of bourbon, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I love it because I love having. I'm not a connoisseur yet, although I now know who to go to. So I appreciate you guys having me and you just thinking of me in that way. And so I am April Pyatt, owner and lead event coordinator here at Socialite Events. We are located in the Durham, North Carolina area. However, we are all over. We travel. This is a wedding and event planning firm. And so I'm super excited about being here tonight. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Now, you say you travel all over. Tell us about, socialite events in the history. And by the way, I love that term, because we're going to share in the audience. Feel free, Tamika's going to drop in the chat so people know exactly where to follow you. But tell us
Absolutely.
about socialite events. First of all, I love that term. I'm a big fan of words, right? So I remember when I first stumbled across that word socialite, I'm like, I like that word. Tell us about
Yeah.
socialite events, what you guys do in the history.
Sure, absolutely. So, been in business for quite some time now. Kicked it off in 2008, and it originally started by one helping one of my best friends plan her wedding in Jamaica, one of my favorite spots. She's actually there now again. Yeah, back years ago, helped her to plan her wedding, and then connected with a really good friend of mine, who's still a tremendous friend to me, everyday friend to me, Stephanie Forte, who is down in my home state of South Carolina, where I'm originally from. And she had a wedding and event planning space or event. Business, I won't say space yet. That may be some foreshadowing for her, but she had a wedding and event planning business, and know, kind of got my feet wet, and I just realized, this is something I really feel like I can do. And I came back, I called my lawyer, and because it's very important to be legal in everything that you're doing and making sure that you're well aligned. And I just started working on the website, started putting myself out there and putting some feelers out there. And once the website was up, we started with a logo, had all the things in place, and I just said it's time to do it. And so promoted myself, got my first wedding, and as tough as it was, it was successful, and that was the main thing, and that was all I was looking for. So that first one was successful, and we haven't had one that was unsuccessful since. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. I can't really describe it, but I know I see the pictures. I see the
Mhm.
experience, and I don't know what it is, but it's about, something about your customers, your audience. I feel like you got a unique niche, right? When I see you, I don't even think of wedding planner, right? I'm like, I don't know what she's doing, but she got her
You
own
know,
little vibe thing.
I think
What
it's
do you
a
describe that?
relationship. Yeah, we set ourselves apart a lot of times by just building the relationship with our clients and giving them the customer service that they may or may not be getting in other places. It's an experience, and so we like to coin it as a carefully curated experience. And so,
Ah.
from start to finish, making sure that they feel comfortable, that the conversation is there between what they really want, what they can afford, and how we can make the most out of the money that they have. But we a lot of times end up, lifelong friends with our clients, and that's a really big deal to us. And so, yeah, it's one of the things that I think really sets us apart. But we have this great relationship.
Wow. So you really are focused on customer because sometimes people go high end. They're like, we're going to be the high end, brand. We're going to be the budget brand. But it seems like you're focusing on relationships.
We
But I
do.
can tell it's always like this beautiful, I love my word, eclectic type vibe. So, kudos to
Yeah,
you for building that. So
thank you.
tell us about your experience because I know you're in corporate, you're still in corporate.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I remember when we first met, we were talking about I mean, not entrepreneurship, project management, because I think
Yeah,
the core
yeah,
what you kind of do is project management, in the 9 to 5. And
yeah.
I can imagine tons of project managers have dreamed about doing what you're doing, but
Yeah.
very few of them do it. So, I would like to kind of know before I kind of get into this ecosystem thing, what do you think made you a little different, right? Do you feel like you
Yeah.
you had a different courage, you had a different skill, you had a different relationship? What is your advice for those people out
It's,
there in corporate and they're thinking about it, but they
yeah.
haven't done what you did, which is, and I think you've been building this thing for at least 10 years, right?
Absolutely, a little over 10 years for sure now. And so a lot of it is about taking what you learn in one space and transitioning that to another. I have a computer science degree, which sounds like it's totally different, of course, from wedding planning, wedding and event planning. But, I am now working in the IT project management field. And so you take a lot of those same um, attributes and things that you hone, those skills that you hone in a corporate arena, and you make them work in real life, and in your business. And so a lot of it is quite similar. If you think about the scope, the schedule, the budget, all of that, it is really and truly the same. And you kind of layer it on top of this beautiful event. So instead of working with developers, you're working with vendors and clients. And so your customer or your client is still really important to them. The level of communication and the way that you communicate, a lot of the way that we've structured the process of what we do with our clients was really structured from project management principles. So
Awesome.
you really leverage what you already know and you know just become a beast at it.
Well, kudos to you, for beasting at it, right? Because,
Yeah,
as I think about it, like I said, people, they dream about it, right? Because, they can connect the dots. They're like, oh, project management. And, excuse me, not just project management, but IT project management, corporate project
yeah,
management. And that's a whole different level, right?
so
But
different.
taking those skills and, what I imagine, having a similar background, right? You start with those transferable skills, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, the transferable skills between the budget, the cost, the scope, the customers, would you say there's anything else you had that kind of allowed you to step out there and do it versus dreaming about it?
Absolutely. I think it's the high tech and high touch feel of it all too,
Okay.
So of course you've got the high tech part that comes from the IT,
Okay.
background and what have you, but that personal touch, being able to connect with people and being a great listener, which is really underrated, I think, these days. Being a really good listener and being able to connect with people, diffusing them, making sure they're comfortable, and allowing yourself to really come through in what you do. And so on the corporate side, you're working with people and they're very computer centric and very technical. And so
Hmm.
being able to break through even on that side, on the corporate arena, and making sure that you build those relationships, you get projects done a whole lot faster that way when you
Yeah.
make friends. So I think it's the same thing, being able to take that, like you said, transferring those skills and just really being a great listener and transitioning that into something beautiful for people and allowing them to, see whatever your budget is, we can really make this thing gorgeous for you, and being honest also. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Kudos to you because those transferable skills are real. And sometimes I can imagine you say project management, and people don't know what that means, or they think it means something else. But
Right.
it's good that I see how you have used that because I can literally see it. Now, I want to
Mhm.
kind of step back. Now that we know about you, is
Okay.
talk about some of these. It's a more academic topic, but at the same time, it's
Mhm.
not, right? When I was in business school, it was around 2005. And then around 2010, this concept of entrepreneurship ecosystems came out.
Mhm.
And we already know what it means because all they did is took something and renamed it. And all it really means is, hey, Similar to when we go out to Silicon Valley, we go out there because there's a lot of IT shops. And if you want to be
Yep.
successful in technology and starting your startup, you go to Silicon Valley.
Yep.
Well, in Hollywood, where do you go? I mean, as an actor, where do you go when you want to be successful? You go to Hollywood because there's a whole ecosystem of
Mhm.
acting, of arts, and things like that. So the concept is introduced to say, what if entrepreneurs like you, April,
Mhm.
wasn't just out there hustling, flowing by yourself, but you
Yeah.
had a whole ecosystem, community building, culture and local engagement, resources,
Mhm.
skill sets and training, and policy. The speaker last week said, sisters out there trying to braid and get their braiding company off the ground,
Mhm.
but they regulating sisters can't even braid hair, right? That's
Mhm.
policy. And then
Mhm.
capital, because we all know about money, right? Tell us
Right.
about your experience when it comes to your ecosystem. Have you had any uphill battles, any challenges, any wins? Tell us about your experience and tell us about some things that you would recommend for the audience to look for
Mhm.
once they're doing that hustle and flow.
I would start with, the fact that I'm a firm believer that your network is directly tied to your net worth. And so you really have to um, surround yourself with the right people. And sometimes that means, one-on-one, finding a mentor, finding someone who, is doing what you're doing and you really love where they're going with it. You love their business practice. But I think that's probably one of the first steps that I would recommend to anybody. And sometimes it's a little harder because people look at they may look at you as competition, even just starting out. But if you take long enough, you'll meet an April who is open to always sitting down and talking to other entrepreneurs and giving them the basics of what it is that you need to do. Find you a good tax expert. Don't find yourself in tax trouble the first year or two in your business. Build your team of experts. You think about a president, maybe not much our most recent, but but if you think about that, that president doesn't know every single thing. They've got cabinet leaders and different people that they are, advisors, people that they're kind of tapping into. Build that network of people, one that you can go to, one about money, one about, your business practices, how to really build out your website to make things flow, how to be found properly on the internet and increase that, those clicks. And so building that network is super important. That's one of the biggest things I think in terms of business that anyone starting out and or even if you've been in business for a while that you can do, and create a process so that if you are working a full-time business, you don't run yourself into the ground because you create the right process and you can, it's a repeatable process and something that you can do time and time again and be good at it. So
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And you just
yeah.
mentioned another transferable skill. So I was smiling because you said process.
Yeah,
Process driven. I love that statement because April,
absolutely.
everybody's not process driven, right?
No,
That's
no.
probably one of those skills you take for granted. Do you take it for granted or you kind of use
I
it every day?
absolutely don't. No, no, I
Okay.
don't. One of the things, especially as a planner, that we did, especially as we began to grow, and you've got back to back to back weddings, and you're trying to, work a full time job, is to, make the investment into the tools that'll help. Make this thing easier for you. So we, made the investment in a CRM, relationship management tool that
Hmm.
allows us to get our clients communicated to on a regular basis and that can create again time back into that process, but doing the things that help you to work smart so that you don't wear yourself out. Self-care is still important even as an entrepreneur.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for
Mhm.
sharing that story about, and I like the what you said about your ecosystem. And I would paraphrase because as you were speaking, I was hearing a lot, but how I summarize, because that's what I do, is
Mhm.
that you said, I created my own ecosystem. And in my own ecosystem, I started with my network. And in
Mhm.
my network, I knew about certain things that I didn't want to be, fell on, such as finances,
Yep.
and things like that. But I like that because one of the things I challenge, entrepreneurs is that, the old, community building and thing was based on physical location. And what
Yeah.
I've seen is that we are so virtual, we're so dispersed, right? So I would argue that the future of entrepreneurship is going to have this dispersed model where you have to, like you said, leverage that network and build your own ecosystem. So thank you for sharing that because,
Absolutely.
you know, it
Absolutely.
As they say, that every time, things become new, sometimes they're still old. But what you kind of described is like, hey, there may be some new things out there, but this is how I built it. So thank you for sharing that because I like that.
Yeah, and
I
I
want to
think it's
go ahead.
important. No, I was going to say, I think that's important. And, even after the pandemic, we were already kind of moving towards this model of, meeting with clients virtually, just because you want to do things that are time compounding as well. And so, again, if you're going to have, a side business and or something else that you're trying to make a full-time business or something income replacing, you got to be agile in the way that you move. And so, one of the things that came out of the pandemic is that people did realize that you don't always have to meet in person for everything. And, I've had clients that I didn't meet until the month of, or maybe they're in a whole different state, or,
Wow.
and so, yeah, it's really, it's one of those things that I think matters as you're building out your process and who you're going to be as a business owner. Be as agile as you can be. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Tell me this. You mentioned, I know one of the things you want to talk about is, your response, during COVID, right? Because,
Mhm.
during COVID, weddings was one of those things where it was just all over the place, right? Did
Absolutely.
you, how, I mean, was it good for you, bad? Like, what did you learn from that whole experience? Share with us,
Yeah.
your lesson learned as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. It was one of those times that, of course, the world stopped. It wasn't just wedding planning, but it was the whole world. The crazy part was that we were still booking weddings. I think some of the work that I put into place, you don't wait until it happens. You kind of dig your well before you get thirsty. And so we had put enough feelers and investments into advertising so that, people were still finding us and people were still hopeful that, a day would come where they would celebrate again. And they are definitely celebrating this year. We've been very busy. But, I also took that time, one, to breathe, but also to build upon some of those systems that we were talking about. And so,
Hmm.
just because you're not actively doing, what you would normally do in terms of back-to-back weddings during that time, I still use that time wisely. You feel like you're in a lull, but that's really the time when you should kind of slow down so you can speed up in the future, which I'm very grateful for now. I decided, which system I wanted to use and if I wanted to switch systems and finding the right um, team for social media and SEO and all this other stuff. So, if you're going to make changes, that was the perfect time to make changes. You rebuild your website, you rebrand. So, I was had to be hopeful also during that process that, things would turn around. But the other pivot was, okay, well, how do I now operate? So I was thinking, let's build that network again, get some folks to do live streaming, you know, look at micro weddings and offer that if that's an option for people,
Micro weddings?
smaller things, micro weddings, smaller, more intimate setting weddings. So, 50 or less, 30 or less, 10 to 15 people. Those were the types of weddings that we were doing. Now they're back up to 300. But, right when COVID hit, everybody was looking to do smaller events. And so figuring out ways to still be safe and to still follow protocol and put some of those things in place. So a lot of that time, although we weren't actively going into a building and doing those weddings, it was the perfect time to recalibrate and really think about how do you pivot. And any good business owner has to be considering that in some way, shape, or form because, time has known to move on from the beginning and it will go on without you. That's Stevie Wonder, not me. But you do have to think about it and really pivot and be prepared to pivot in a situation like that. And that's exactly what we did.
Well, I forgot, April, that you had a technical background. I totally forgot that, right? And as you're speaking, I'm really picking up what you're putting down because I'm hearing, hey, she has a technical background, she's doing this technical project management, and she's utilizing these enterprise skill sets and things like that. You know,
Absolutely.
but what I've also realized is that in the audience we have people who don't, speak those words or geek out like you and
Mhm.
I do. Any advice for people who may be a little intimidated by technology or, it's just not their thing, right? They're more,
Oh, yeah.
they're just a different type of person because I
Mhm.
I actually love exactly what you're saying because people often ask me like, Calvin, how do you do the show, and I've been told that I run a tight ship, right? But
Yeah,
essentially, it's the things that you're alluding to, right? Is these different
mhm,
skills, these different technologies, this different automation and things like that. Any
yeah.
advice, and I mean, whatever, if you want to say, hey, get with technology or don't, or,
Mhm.
any advice for people who may be a little bit shy on that technology side?
Yeah, we all have parents or grandparents or, um, an auntie or someone who's not as familiar with technology. And trust me, even as someone who has a computer science degree and I work in the tech world, I can still get intimidated by stuff. The first reel that I had to do, I mean, I dropped more F bombs just trying to get through the thing because it was just frustrating.
Yes,
But
that live
you
stream.
know, yeah, it's a lot, and it puts a lot of pressure on you. But that's where it's going, and so whether we like it or not, those are the things that we're being kind of forced into. So I would say take baby steps, but definitely take those steps. And some things in life I have learned through experience that you just have to do afraid. And so, don't feel forced into it, but definitely kind of ease into it and call the niece or the nephew or the little cousin or somebody and have them sit down and talk with you and kind of walk you through some of those things. And one of the biggest resources that I have found that is free is YouTube.
Okay.
So learning how to kind of get through some of those things. Everybody doesn't start out with the nice production crew that Mr. Calvin has here,
Oh, you
but
mean the home team?
I do think it's important to kind of ease into those things. And, once you start playing around with it and get comfortable with it, and even if you wanted to create some dummy website or profile, do that and just start playing around with it and, get your comfort level up to where it needs to be. Because trust me, you're not alone. A lot of people are intimidated by this whole technology thing. And but I think the world is forcing us into it. And so I don't want people to be left behind in any way. So I always encourage do it afraid and grab somebody. That's where the mentors or the folks that network again. Pull those people in who really know what they're doing or who kind of know what they're doing and figure it out together. Make it fun, get a drink, uh, and just have fun with it. Life is for the living. Just have fun with it.
Awesome. Do it afraid because what I'm thinking is, I tell you what intimidates me. What intimidates me is TikTok, right? I can't see myself TikToking, right? So I got
Yeah.
to figure out how to do whatever they do and get out
Mhm.
and dance. I mean, are you TikToking, April? I mean, have you got
I
it?
am I am TikToking. Socialite
Okay.
Events is on TikTok.
Oh,
However, our Instagram and Reels, our stories and our Reels are probably more popular. But yes, I have figured out my comfort zone in TikTok. I am not doing dances, although I can do a little something, but I'm not doing the dances yet.
you're not
And
doing
I'm
the
of
dances yet. Okay.
yeah, I'm of an age where I'm like, I don't know. I'm a
Awesome.
little older.
Awesome. Well, a couple last questions before we pivot because I really, really am excited, about the show tonight and our next team coming up. I mean, I'm pretty sure as they sit there listening, they're just kind of thinking about, the cool thing of, the networking and opportunity. And I want to connect you,
Mhm.
with the team as well, but tell me this. I want to kind of pivot and just talk about a topic that I know is important. It's not really political, but it's current events, right? And
Mhm.
what it means is, what it means to be a woman-owned business, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Last week we learned that the number one growing entrepreneurial segment was woman-owned businesses.
Yeah.
The sisters are doing their thing, and then it
Killing
was
it.
it was an argument, there was a debate, well, not a debate, an argument, whatever, but it's like, well, is it good, is it bad? I'm like, hey, all we can do is celebrate, right? But
That's
what are
right.
your thoughts, in being, a woman on, business, any advice for
Mhm.
the sisters out there who may be a little afraid because they know, it's an ugly world out there. Any
Mhm.
advice or anything that you've learned or anything that's been able to help you, step out there in, in a certain courage or whatever? I'm just curious of what your experience, because it may be like, oh, Calvin, I've seen none of that stuff. Or Calvin,
Uh,
I focus on this. I'm curious.
yeah. So I am, and I know this feels like a theme, but find that woman that will hold your hand guide you to safety. You can handle this thing. One of the biggest things with being a woman-owned business, and some of what I think are challenges, even in the corporate arena, is those that would like to perpetuate the lie, I should say, that women that were too emotional or that were not as well equipped in any way, shape, or form. Most of us, or if people are really quite honest with themselves, they do realize that anytime we walk into a room, there's if it's 5 of us, you're probably going to have at least 4 leaders in that group, or at least that's the way my crew rolls. But take advantage of the women that are beside you, and sit down and talk to them. If you're talking to women and they're not in support, other women, and they're not in support of you or who you are, they're not building you up anyway, then you're probably talking to the wrong woman, because there are tons of networks out here. Get involved in a meetup or something where you've got women who are entrepreneurs. It is not hard to find leaders. But I have seen, especially being an African-American woman who is not compromising her look, you're going to get these locks, you're going to get my style, you're going to get all of this. And so, when you're coming into a corporate arena, and even into the wedding and event industry, where, you don't have you've got a good number of Black wedding industry professionals, but in some of the networking arenas that you're in, you don't always see yourself. And so, what you want to do is get at the table and invite others, And so I think that's a really big thing. But I've seen it. I've seen the discrimination. I've seen the microaggressions across the board. So it's not just in corporate arenas. It's in business and in entrepreneurship as well. So I definitely have experienced it. You just can't be bothered by it. You just have to push through and stand firm in who you are, and what you do as a business. I have no doubt that if I'm going to do a wedding, I'm going to kill it. It's going to be successful, and people are going to be happy throughout that day. And you don't let any other wedding professional, or like we mentioned in the corporate arena, you don't let them shake you in any way. That's the strength of who we are. And so get around the right people, get involved in women empowerment groups. There are tons of groups online. I have tons of friends. Get with like-minded individuals. My friends, my family, they are all strong in what they do. And so I think iron sharpens iron. That's just kind of what it is. So get around the right people.
Awesome, awesome. Build your tribe. And I like the way you
Build your
describe it.
tribe.
You're
Yeah.
like, if you're around those people and they're not doing the thing, then you may be around the wrong people. Well, April, it has been awesome here tonight. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for sharing your story. Feel free to hang out with us. If you have any other contact information you want to drop, I think we drop your contact information. I think you do initial consultations, right? So if
I
people
do.
want to follow you, I think Tamika may have already dropped that in the chat. If not, she's going to drop that where people can follow
Absolutely.
you. But
Mhm.
feel free to hang out with us. And if you hang out, we're going to do a Q&A at the end. But we're going to
Sure.
pivot real quick to our next team on deck. And I
Awesome. Thank you,
thank you
guys.
for being here. And I look forward to chatting with you soon. Let's see
Thank you.
here. Let me get my next team on bat. Terrell, this has been a cool conversation. I'm gonna get you unmuted while I get the rest of your team. Man, what you think about old April, man? She doing a thing, right?
She's dope. Keep doing your thing. I love to hear that. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, man, she is doing her thing. Let's see, I had Lathay. Okay, there he is. Let me get him unmuted. There it is. What's up, team? What's up, brother? I am excited to catch up with you guys, man. You guys are doing your thing, right? I invited, my homeboys. I said, man, the Kappas going to be in the building. All of a sudden, the Kappas want to show up, right? You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know why, right? But, 1911 is 1911, right? So, but, I must say, I got to give you guys love, right? Because I want to just tell you what I first saw. When I heard your story, I saw your story. I'm like, wait a minute. These are some brothers, some Black men who are doing their thing together. And I could tell by the pictures. I'm like, every one of y'all got personalities. I can already tell. I'm from Texas, by the way. I got old soul. Grandma said, don't read people that don't like that, but I can't help it, right? So I'm like, I see them brothers. Every one of them got personality. How in the world do y'all do it? But we're going to get into that later. Welcome, welcome, welcome here tonight. If you guys don't mind introducing yourself, telling me who you are, and we're just going to jump on into it.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. Thanks for having us, Calvin, and for everybody listening. My name is Terrell Cooper. I am 1/3 owner of JohnTom's Barbecue. My role with the company is primarily focused on branding and marketing. So anything that you see from the face and what's visible pretty much has come from my wheelhouse. I'm from Indiana, born and raised, representing the Midwest. I know we got a lot of Southerners on here, but we got a little bit of soul in the Midwest too.
Yeah, we do. I'll go next. Rodney Robinson, another third, JohnTom's crew. My role is I'm in sales development for the company. So anything that helps progress the business from a sales perspective and relationship building. Glad to be on.
Awesome.
And I'm Lathay Pegues. I round out the team. I'm president and CEO, actually the creator of the sauces and the one responsible for pulling these two into this craziness. So thanks for having us.
Awesome. Well, tell us this. If you don't mind, let's start with the story, right? For the people who don't know the story, tell us the story of JohnTom's barbecue sauce and how you guys get started. And I think, Lathay, this could be a good opportunity for you to kind of shape the backdrop. Tell us how you guys got started. I mean, the history and everything.
Well, for the sake of time, and I know we're limited, but so I'll give you the abbreviated story. Mm-hmm. But man, this story really starts with Terrell and I are first cousins.
Okay.
His mother and my father are brother and sister. Rodney, my best friend, and we met at Indiana University, pledged together, and worked in the bond together. And so it really starts with me and Terrell's grandfather, whose name was JohnTom Branson. JohnTom was born in Madison County, Mississippi, and had, I believe 10 siblings, and they all migrated to the north back in the 40s during Great Migration, and landed in Indiana. And so what our grandfather brought with him to the Midwest was this passion and love for barbecue. And it's what he did in his spare time. He was as a factory worker. That's how he provided for his family. But he had created this sauce on his own that I'm sure predates me, and I'm older than Terrell. So I often say that we were born into this barbecue family because that's what my grandpa was all about. How our story really began with this is my grandpa passed when I was 11. And he took the recipe with him, unbeknownst to us. I don't think we realized he didn't write this recipe down until he passed away, and we found out we don't have daddy's sauce. So fast forward, and I'm in college attending Indiana University, and one random weekend, I was grilling, and something popped in my head to try and recreate my grandfather's barbecue sauce. I remember most ingredients he put in it. And so I called my auntie, Terrell's mother, and another one of my aunts, and asked them what I was missing. And so they filled in the gap. So I went to the store, I bought all the ingredients. I came home, I threw everything in a pot, and it was not that good. This ultimately turned into this obsession. I wanted to crack the code. I wanted to see if I can recreate my grandfather's sauce. Well, I graduate from college. I move to Illinois. I get my first job out of college, but I took this passion with me. And so throughout the years, I would just come to it on weekends, go in the kitchen, throw my jazz on, get my notepad out, batch number 10, and go at it. So this took me about 5 years. Uh-huh. Didn't exactly get his sauce, but created something that I was pretty satisfied with. I thought it was the best barbecue I had ever tasted. So I needed some other people to tell me that, though. So what I did is I invited my coworkers over I am a journalist by trade. And at the time I was a news reporter. I was a broadcaster, weekday reporter, weekend anchor. And so I invited my coworkers over to my apartment, grilled all this meat, and put this ball jar filled with my sauce on the table with a spoon in it. And my plan was to just sit back and not say a word. I didn't want this to be prompted. So I did that. Everybody fixed plates, got the sauce, pouring the sauce on, and I just sat there and watched. And finally, an intern of ours who was a vegetarian was eating plain potato chips and dipping it straight in into the barbecue sauce. And she finally spoke up and asked what the sauce was, because she thought it was the best sauce she'd ever had, and where can she get it? Other people chimed in, said they liked it. What is it? And that's when I dropped it on them that I had invited them over because I had created this sauce, but I wanted some honest opinions on what you guys thought about it. Some of them didn't believe it was my sauce, but eventually I convinced them that it was. So in my mind, I had something. I was onto something. I take another job, news anchor job in Milwaukee. So I moved the family to Milwaukee, and I create a spicier version of what I had created. We call it Sneaky Hot. And just created it just because I like spicy, would make it, give it out to neighbors. And 2 years into that job, we all lost our jobs. Our news department closed. So I was left at this crossroad with what I wanted to do with my life, because honestly, I was a little burnt out on TV news. I was tired of moving my family around. So I have these sauces that I had already kind of start thinking, what can I do with these? So I come up with this grand plan to move my family back to our hometown, Muncie, Indiana, move in with my mother, and start this barbecue sauce business. Once I got the okay from the wife, which I thought she was going to think I was crazy, but she actually said, let's do it. Terrell called me as I was planning on how I was going to make this happen. Called me one random night to check on me, and I told him what my plans were. He said, "Cuz, you need some help." I said, "I do." And so he said, "Well, the first thing I want to start working on is that logo." So Terrell got to work on the logo, and then we just start putting our minds together how we could make this happen. So then I told Terrell, probably a couple weeks into us doing this, I told Terrell, I said, "Man, I want to add one more person to this mix." And that was Rodney. Like I said, we pledged together. We worked in the bond together. We worked very well together. He had a business background. And I knew Rodney would just be a great fit. So I presented that to Terrell, and Coop was like, "Hey, it's on you." So I called Rodney and, laid it on him, asked him if he'd be willing to do it. We had our 10-year reunion in the bond was coming up, and we were going to Miami. So Rodney said, "Hey, man, bring that sauce to Miami. I'm not going to, join something that I've never tasted it." So I take this sauce to Miami. Yeah, I take this sauce to Miami, and it was about, I think it was 7 or 8 of our sayings that went on this trip. And day 2, we're all just, we clowning in the room, and I pulled this jar of barbecue sauce out. And Bruz was like, "Man, what's that?" I said, it's this barbecue sauce I created. I went, "Check it out." So Bruz took the top off, started dipping their fingers in it. Rodney's doing the same thing I did with my coworkers. He's standing back watching. He wants to see what their reactions are. So they're going nuts. It's like, "Dude, you got to do something with this." So Rodney finally steps up and said, "Man, let me taste that." So he sticks his finger in, tasted, got it on his palate, and then he leans into me and was like, "Hey, I'm in." Like that. So we had the team, man. And that was in March. So our first showing was going to be Indiana Black Expo, which was in July. So we only had a few months to really get everything together. That means find bottles, find labels, find shrink bands, find a place to make this sauce that was FDA approved so we could sell it to the masses. We did all of this, man, in a matter of a couple months. And we were ready for the Indiana Black Expo, where we knew our people is going to tell us the truth, whether we had a product or not. So that's why we strategically chose that venue to present our sauce.
For the audience, it sounds like this right here, this particular expo is African American Expo, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so we taking it to the people, right?
We taking it to the people. We taking our people.
Okay.
This is an expo that started in the 70s. And it was huge, man. The vendor hall was just massive. And so we figured we'll walk away that weekend knowing if we got a product or not. They're going to tell us. And so,
hold the thought right there, because I want to bring the other guys in. But I know you're getting ready to get to the good part, but I want to hold you for a second.
Okay.
I want to get a backdrop from Rodney and Terrell. What are you guys thinking at this point? I know Terrell, I mean, you got your cousin, right? I mean, he fam, you know him, he crazy. I mean, I don't know, it's your cousin, right? You know what I mean? But he got personality, I can already tell, right? Rodney, you pledged with him, right? What y'all really thinking of during this time frame? I mean, y'all like, well, he's serious or he too wild and crazy. I'm just curious. What were y'all thinking?
My first thought is barbecue sauce. How we gonna make money off of this? That was my first thought.
Okay.
So, but then after hearing the story and the passion, commitment, dedication behind it, we did some research. I said, this could be something. So it didn't start out to be something to make money. It was more of a legacy, and it was a dream to carry out. So we thought it was something that we do more than just for ourselves. It was something that we didn't want to just look at it just as a dollar amount, a revenue stream, but a passion and legacy we wanted to carry on.
Awesome. And, and I'm going to come back to you before we go back to Lathay, is be thinking about, your background and things, because I want to hear about your skill sets, right? So, Terrell, what were you thinking at this time? Were you just supporting your cousin? You were just, trying to get involved? I mean, what were you thinking at this time?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it was my grandfather. So just knowing that it was something that we were doing to preserve his legacy and carry it along, I was sold right then and there. But even furthermore, I had a passion for doing the work that needed to be done. So it was necessary and it was needed. So just seeing the passion that they had behind creating the product, I could match that passion behind really putting my emotion and energy into building the brand and the logo and giving us the feel and the flavor that we have. So I was already in my lane. And it was a no-brainer for me.
Awesome. Because based on your background, because I think your background was marketing, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I can see the excitement there for you because, as a brand manager or as in marketing, you're looking for a brand, right? You're looking to get your hands in at the ground level and shape this identity. I know a little bit about marketing, so I'm thinking about your excitement, right? So, going back to Rodney before we go to Lathay. Rodney, tell us about your background. You get into it. Did Lathay knew you was a hardcore salesperson? Did he know you was about the money? I mean, how did your background shape, what you were getting into?
So, like yourself and April, I have an IT background. So,
okay.
Computer information systems was my major. So I'm a tech nerd, right?
Okay.
So I didn't get into sales till later on, but we didn't have any background in this. In the food industry, a brand new industry. So we just had to leverage our resources to go out and, we had to hustle and grind and execute, right? And just get what we win. We had to learn from ground up. We learned a lot of lessons. But the beauty of that is that we started. We had an idea, we had a product, and we just started, did some research, and we hit a lot of roadblocks, but we got around them and we just kept going.
Awesome. The thing that excited me about the story of this team here is that you guys have so many core ingredients, right? Of what we talk about here is Southern Soul. We talk about entrepreneurship. We talk about community. We talk about collaboration. We talk about building community. We talk about working together, right? We talk about preserving that legacy, digital legacies and things. But Lathay, back to you. You're doing all of this. Did you know what you were doing? Did you like, oh yeah, I'm going to take all of these things and put them together? Or were you really about the sauce? I'm curious what you were thinking, like the mind of, the master plan. Were you, hustle and flow, or were you a solid plan at this point? I'm thinking about the early part of, when you're getting ready to go to this expo.
No, we didn't know what we were doing. In short, I mean, if we have to be honest, I'm a journalist, Rodney IT, Terrell marketing. I mean, we had no idea about the food industry. Here's what I did know, and here's what I hung everything on. I created something that was enjoyed favorably by everybody I put it in front of. So I knew we had a product. I knew we had a product that would sell. But more importantly than that, I was putting my grandpa's name on this. I was putting his name on this. And I think by me doing that, I probably took it more serious than if I put my own name on that.
Wow.
Because I had to, we got to represent, because we're taking this man's name and putting it on this product. So did we have a solid plan? No, we had a product. We had hustle. We don't take no for an answer. And our skill sets that everybody brought to the table, it just, we didn't think it at the time, but we soon found out that, man, it contributed to everything we're doing. So, and like Rodney said, man, we just basically, man, we roughed it out and asked questions and bumped our heads and got knocked down and all of that. And along the way, all we were doing was gaining knowledge in this industry. Now we can sit with anyone in this industry and have a conversation.
Awesome.
No doubt.
Awesome. Now take us back to the expo. Take us back to the expo. You're getting ready to jump into there. You're going to the expo. This expo's been around since the 70s, you say?
Yes. Been around a long time, and brings people from all over the country to Indianapolis, to the Circle City. So basically what we had planned on doing was showing up and just allowing people to taste it.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't thinking about selling or anything. We were just going to let people taste it, get their feedback, and then at the end of the weekend, decide, okay, do we have a product? Here's where I say these different personality and skill sets come in. Rodney was like, you mean to tell me we're going to go set up all weekend? We're investing this money, spending this money to be here. We're not going to sell anything? Nah, we need to sell. We're going to be there. We're going to have product. Let's sell it. Okay, makes sense. So we sold it. Friday through Sunday, we get to Sunday, and I think it ended like 5 p.m. Sunday. Around noon Sunday, we were all out of sauce. We had one bottle of each flavor, and we had 2 flavors at the time from our first batch run that we wanted to hold on to. And so with us having several hours left with the show, you can imagine people were coming up to the table wanting to buy sauce, and we didn't have it to sell to them. So it was at one point, man, we had a group of people around our table asking us if we would auction off the sauce.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we left that weekend and was like, well, fellas, we got a product. We got something to sell. And so we used that as the litmus test, and we was like, well, here we go. So the rest, we just started figuring out. We was basically building the plane as we were flying.
Awesome. Before we get into the academic stuff, I want to hear the story. I love the story, and I want you guys to tell it again. The story of, I think it was your first batch, right? Where you're trying to kind of do this, I think, mass production or figure out how to do that, and I heard it, but, feel free, Lathay, you could tell it, one of the other guys can tell it, because I want to kind of move around. But I love to hear the story, and all you guys participate, of how you guys, because now, I'm going to fast forward to you getting ready to, put it in stores, and people were asking me, where can you buy it? I know, because I checked last night, you can buy on your website. I also know, because I got the question from Willie, one of your frat brothers, he wanted to know if it was vegan something. I'm like, man, I don't know, right? But based on, you know how them vegans are, man. But based on what you was telling me is, if you got a vegan putting a potato chip in there, it means something, right? So he wanted to know that. I sent him something that talks about your sauce and things like that. But let's step back for a second and make sure, you guys drop into the chat how you can purchase and where to purchase, stores and websites and things like that. But tell me about how you guys go upon this experimental process. where you're trying to get the recipe right? Because I think what it means is making small batches is not the same as making large batches, I'm thinking. Tell us about that.
Rodney, you want to take this?
I'll take the first one. So going down into a kitchen incubator, first of all, we had to get all of the ingredients for a batch. So that was multiple store runs. We tried to get some things wholesale online, get it on time, then drive down 2.5 hours to this kitchen where we had to actually make it, of course, FDA approved. So making a plate of spaghetti for 4 people is different than making it for 50, right? There's a lot more ingredients to go in, the seasoning, everything has to be right. So you can imagine we had all this money we spent on the ingredients, get down there, make it, and it doesn't come out correct. I mean, we're stuck. We don't know what to do. So now we have to go across the river to Kentucky to hopefully get some more ingredients to do it again. And then there were sometimes we would go down there 2 hours driving, spend 4 hours making the product, failing, going across the river, spending another 2 hours shopping for ingredients, coming back, failing again, coming back with no product. So that's a whole day's worth of time, money, gas, whatever, just wasted. Tail between our legs. And you know what? We had to get up the next couple of days, go back and do it again because we had a product. So that goes to the dedication and passion and commitment. So we just kept doing that. Gosh, we did that for maybe 2 years, 2 or 3 years. And then we finally got to a point where we got to a place where we can automate that process. We went to a kitchen incubator and they did it for us. But for the first 2 years was rough, brother. It was rough.
And let me kind of add to that. When we had to piece together everything it took to make the sauce, at the time, we were still getting bottles from Milwaukee. So we'd have to drive from Indiana to Milwaukee to pick up our bottles, drive them back to Indiana, then go shopping for all of our ingredients. And there was an ingredient that we had to order online. And that was the problem ingredient on our first run because we tried to substitute it with something else, with a different brand. And when we finished, it threw everything off. Well, of course, the food scientist that was there, he didn't care about our product like we cared about it. He was like, "Oh, I think it's fine." I said, no, it's not. This does not taste like my sauce. So we had to go across the river into Kentucky and find the brand of ingredient that we used. We went to Kroger and bought, I think we went to a couple of Kroger and bought them all out and came back and had to try it again. And we got it. So, man, I tell you, those first couple years, as Rodney said, man, it was all hustle, man, and no sleep.
Oh, hustle. Terrell, share with us, I call this the messy middle, right? Any stories you want to share from them first 2 years, branding, experience, drive, and experimentation? What were you going through during that time?
Yeah, so Lathay and Rodney were both boots on the ground. I was living and working in Florida at the time. So I would come home for instances like the expo or whenever we had shows or meetings. And I do recall, going through that experience of going to Madison and shrink wrapping in, every individual bottle and giving them a water bath and stirring the sauce in these big vats, so I remember that very, very distinctly. But I wasn't as intimately connected to it as they both were. But by no means did I miss out on having the experience because I did have a chance to experience it with them.
How about this from anybody, any advice because this is the messy middle, right? People think small businesses, all glamour, right? You guys are going through a hard time, a painful time. Were y'all relationships challenged at all? I mean, was any egos, personalities, button? I mean, did y'all have any of those moments? How did y'all get through it?
Yeah, we did. I don't think you can have any kind of close relationship with anyone and not have those.
Okay.
What I will say though about our team, man, is we've always kept it respectful.
Okay.
We've always kept it respectful with each other. But yeah, there's been a couple times where, you know, the discussions were heated. I mean, we're brothers, man. I mean, we're brothers. I mean, you got a brother. I'm sure you fought with your brother.
Hey,
So,
I know. That's why I'm
yeah.
going there.
Yeah, we're brothers for real. I mean, me and Terrell and I grew up like brothers. When I met Rodney, man, we clicked like this. That's my brother. So yeah, we've had to have those tough conversations and a couple heated moments, and you know, but had those. I mean, we always came out better on the other side of those. I mean, some things were said that needed to be said. Everybody has needed to be checked at one point in time. And we do that. We did that respectfully, and we grew from it and learned from it. So I think if that's not happening, man, there's something wrong with the relationship.
Yeah. Well, I like the way you describe it. We kept it respectful, right? And I think that's cool because when I even just looking at everybody with different backgrounds, you know, I see people like, you know, my boy Rain on there. He's a tester, right? And he live in the testing world. But sometimes people don't respect the testers, right? You know, sometimes the people don't respect the marketing or the sales, you know, whatever. So, you know, kudos to you guys for doing that and keeping it respectful because, you know, where brothers get to be brothers, they get to be themselves and they get to move in this authentic place. And like you said, be brothers. You're going to bump head, but you get past it. I want to shift a little bit to the academic stuff. You know, entrepreneurship ecosystem, fancy word, but, you know, really what it means is that, you know, what is the community doing while you guys are doing your hustle and flow? I mean, do you guys, you know, I would love to get a story from each of you guys, like, you know, were you surrounded by love and support? Did you have painfulness? Like I said, one of the great experiences I've seen, and I would love to hear how you guys partnered with your alma mater, the university. I think that's an awesome play at building community. But I'd also would like to kind of hear, you know, anything you guys ran into, any headaches, any opportunities, or any lessons learned you want to share with the audience. And I guess, you know, one example from each of you would be perfect.
I feel like I'm talking too much, so y'all go.
I guess I'll take it just from the perspective of lessons learned, and I think for us, making those failures very early, and not being afraid to fail and fail fast was vital to our success. As Lathay mentioned earlier, you know, we don't take no for an answer. But even furthermore, we've had to understand and embrace that a no today doesn't mean a never forever. So even though we've been told no in certain instances, some of the business that we have today has really come back around from earlier conversations that we've had. And when you talk about community, the chef in the culinary community is very close-knit. It's very, very close-knit. And by the time one chef or one caterer learned about our product, another chef had already heard about it, or another buyer had already heard about it. We've stepped into certain rooms and conversations like, oh yeah, I heard of you guys. You guys were presented to us last week. So when we start building that type of social capital, you really can't replace it. And I think a lot of the community that we've been able to establish is through that culinary space, and just continuing to press and go a little bit further through those avenues and through those channels.
Awesome. Thank you. How about you, Rodney? Anything you want to share from that community, that ecosystem? Any pros and cons? Any lessons learned?
Yeah, so I first want to give a shout out to our family. It's always the first step in trying to support in what we're doing. So I got my cousin out there. Shout out to Rodney Robinson. She's been rocking with us from the beginning. So we have really been, since we all have unique skill sets and backgrounds, we just took that and just really tried to get business where business would take us. I mean, we were hustling from the trunk, literally, going to restaurants, to hotels, to just asking, hey, will you take a chance? We take a chance. And we won some of those, and they would take a chance on us. And then we got our bigger break is when we went to got to Ball State. And Lathay does this thing where I call the violin moment, where we got to a wall and we just couldn't get past this wall. And he'll just kind of sit back and says, you know what? I just wish somebody would take a chance on us and just go into the story, and then violins will play in the background, and we'll get through. And I swear this works every time. And but Terrell says we plant these seeds. We'll talk to any and everybody. I mean, by far and large, and then it'll come back around, and those seeds will continue to water those seeds, and they'll grow. And I thought it was pretty telling that Lathay got the hashtag. He didn't have to do it, but he did. Because I promise you, every single time our business was about to crumble, we hit this roadblock, not a hurdle, a roadblock, something would just fall down. Every single time. Every single time. So that tells us this was destined, this was ordained, keep doing what we're doing, persistence. So the lesson there is persistence. I think somebody put in the chat, persistence beats resistance. Tell your story, understand your worth and your value, make somebody listen to you and give them a chance. Make them give you a chance.
Awesome. I'm loving it, man. And I know the audience is eating up. What we're going to do is pivot for Q&A. But before we pivot for Q&A, what I want to do is just one last question. And this is one of my questions I'm going to get out of the way. You guys have been on the ground, right? You've been, at the point where you've been successful, that things slow down, I'm curious about, the next 10 years or where you guys want to be, where you're going next. In addition to, you've had a chance to do it, to be that entrepreneur on the ground, seeing the blood, the sweat, the tears, and the fear of it all. Any advice you would give, to the audience in addition to what's been said, because persistence is a theme that we get here at Southern Soul when it comes to entrepreneurship. It's not persistence, sorry, patience. Patience is what, multiple things, multiple entrepreneurs. But if I could wrap up entrepreneurship in one word, it would be that patience. But, tell us about what's next for you guys, the next 10 years, and, what do you see from your experience, the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs like you are facing?
I'll start. Next 10 years. In 10 years, man, we definitely a national presence. But we have even, larger aspirations. We want to be an international company. And I think we are really, the relationship, as Terrell said, man, that really, he nailed it, because we often talk about planting seeds. And we have planted so many seeds that have blossomed when we had no idea they were going to blossom. But the blossom season right now and things that we've done in past years is really setting us up for scalability. Okay. I mean, this year, 2022 has been out of this world. Wow. We are working on some things that this was like, okay, guys, this is what we've been scratching and clawing for. Here we go. So now it's a matter of we're trying to make sure that we are ready, okay, that our house is clean, because it's coming.
Wow.
It is coming strong. So the next 10 years, man, oh, shoot. I'd say the next 2 to 3, you're going to see some amazing things happening with JohnTom's. And it's all right on the cusp of happening right now.
Awesome. Man, that's an awesome story. I just get goosebumps hearing the story, right? And I love this, right? Because that's what we do here at Southern Soul. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spotlight you, April. And what I want to do is go to the audience and get some questions. I've been seeing the chat. You guys have been chatting. You guys have been chatting. But I want to definitely hear from you all. April, what do you think about the guys? I mean, I saw in the chat.
I love it. Listen, I just ordered my peppered gold. I was like, yes.
Oh, you've already placed the order?
Dude, I was like, oh, good. So, yeah, I'm a Southern girl, so I like a little barbecue every now and again. So,
awesome.
Absolutely. But amazing story. So I feel really blessed to be up here with you guys tonight.
Yes.
Likewise.
Yes. So April, I'm gonna while I get my co-host back online, I want to just kind of get started with you. Any questions you have for the guys based on their story and, as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. When you coming to North Carolina with? No, that's, I get it. No, I think it's really not necessarily a question, but just to commend you guys. So, a lot of times people, feel like it's always a crash and burn situation and go into business with others. And so high five to you for keeping the relationship strong and for running the business like a business and, seeing the benefit in people with totally different backgrounds coming together and really making it, some real special sauce. No pun intended there. But no, I appreciate that. I can appreciate that a lot. So yeah. We got the whole divine nine happening up there.
Yes,
But
yes.
no, it's awesome.
Man, and if I can build on that, April, we've talked amongst ourselves just as a team that,
Mhm.
Sometimes you only get a chance to really see the articles and the write-ups and what's happening on the surface. If anybody really had to see what we've had to go through to get to that,
Oh, yeah.
it's a lot of people that would not have done it. But if anybody has an idea, like if we can do it, you can do it,
Mhm.
because we were steadfast in our pursuit. We stand by passion, dedication, and commitment.
Yeah.
And that is the ethos that I feel from you and your story that we know that we possess, and really want to encourage everybody. If that's what your path is, right? It's really you against yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, there are a lot of people in fields doing exactly what we do, but there's something special when you stand out and when people start to recognize you and they start to mention your name before you even walk in the room. That's the type of blessing that you pray for, and then when you start to see it and really see it come to fruition, I think that's amazing. And so, I've seen that because people only see the, oh yeah, you guys are established. It's a lot. It takes a lot to get to that point. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So
Yes.
just to build on that, people see things on the internet and social media and they think, oh, I can do it as well. But as I tell my son, that's just a highlight reel. Double click on that story.
Yeah.
Ask somebody how long it took them to make that clip, which was maybe 20 or 30 times to get that perfect clip, but it probably took years to get to that point, to have to build the story to get to that point.
Yeah.
So one thing, Calvin, I wanted to touch on that you mentioned earlier was the resources. We leveraged all of our resources to really build our ecosystem. Me in the business world, Lathay and his community in the market journalism world, and then Terrell with his marketing connections. We build out our ecosystem and leverage our resources. That's one thing we didn't do in the very beginning. We tried to figure it out ourselves. And it wasn't until maybe 3 or 4 years later, we said, you know what, we know a lot of people, guys. Between the three of us, we know well over 1,000 people. So why don't we just build upon that to help build our brand to get us where we need to be?
Awesome. I'm loving that. I'm really loving that ecosystem once again, that building, right? Leveraging every single connection, right? And I love also because the product you guys chose, think about it. You got wedding and you got, food. Those are just some products, right, that you can talk to anybody about, right? Sometimes, you may have a product such as, hip hop music. It fits over here and only certain people like that music. But I like the industries that you guys chose because even April, and looking at your product and your images, you have a very diverse set of clients, right? I remember when I was at a business school incubator, and I remember I had this idea, and I was gonna, I call it the horrible business idea. It's gonna be a coffee shop, and it's gonna be only black people, and it's gonna be black people. It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be black people, right? Some executive from MTV, she said, "Why would you disenfranchise other customers?" And I'm like, "What that word mean?" Right? I didn't know at the time, but when I began to realize that, yes, I was focused on the cultural thing, which is good, but everybody like barbecue sauce, right?
Right.
Everybody goes to wedding, and I begin to see the numbers open up, right? So kudos to you guys for choosing something. I'm pretty sure Rodney can appreciate this. Y'all picked a product that can multiply exponentially, right?
That's right.
April, you picked a product that can physically grow. It's always, opportunity for wedding.
Yeah.
And
And there are
even
things to morph into from that as well too. And I can't imagine why anybody would only choose to work with one particular people. Like, at the end of the day, it's about income, as well too. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, the audience is being quiet tonight. I haven't been able to keep up with the chat, but Tamika, Katie, did you guys see any questions in the chat?
Before Katie speaks, I will say that Rodney has been answering the questions
Okay.
within the chat, so that's why they are quiet tonight.
Oh,
So thank you, Rodney, for doing that.
So before
During
Katie goes her question, thank you, Rodney. Thank you, Tamika. So is it true that your sauce is vegan or vegetarian? Because Willie told me y'all didn't have the ingredients on the back. So, but he one of those guys. What do y'all tell the vegan, the vegetarian?
So the ingredients are on the
Okay.
back of the bottle. They have to be. That's law. Over the years, we've had to really work on cleaning up our label.
Okay.
Once we started conversations with especially colleges and universities where, the students all are allergic to something. So what we quickly found out was that colleges and universities look for products with no allergens, no high fructose corn syrup. So we have been very fortunate to clean up our label. The two things that we were left trying to clean up, there's a Worcestershire sauce that we were using in our sauce, and it had soy and it had anchovies in it. So there was your fish and soy allergens. So our manufacturer actually found a vegan Worcestershire sauce that did not contain soy nor the anchovies. So yes, we can say that our product is vegan.
Awesome.
We eliminated the high fructose corn syrup and everything. So everything's all natural. You can pronounce everything on the back of our bottle. And we've had to work hard to do that over the years.
Awesome. Kudos to you, man. I know that's a proud moment for you, man, because, when he asked me that, I'm like, man, I don't know, man. But, it's barbecue sauce. It's going on meat. I don't know. But, but kudos to you. You describe it well. There's allergens and you're dealing with universities. And actually, I love that story because it was a good test market, right? As they say, if you can sell it here, then you can sell it anywhere. So, kudos to you on that. Katie, go ahead. You got some questions in the chat. What are your thoughts?
There's a funny question that I really liked. It was from Frank Dobbins. He asks, I'd like to know what your family has to say about your sauce versus your grandfather's sauce.
Uh-oh.
Everyone's very pleased. And I'll never claim it as he is because it's not. I miss his. I do. I miss it. I miss that taste. But no, the family, they'll tell you they're very proud of what I came up with. And they all say that if he was living, he'd be proud too. So yeah, no, it's the family is cool with it and they love it. Now let me tell you something about family though.
Uh-oh. I was about to ask you another question about family. So go ahead, tell us about family.
So when I first moved back to Muncie to start this thing, to be honest, I think some of my family thought I was crazy. I do. And what I've learned, for entrepreneurs got to have a little craziness to them anyway, right? So, but I think, I really think they were worried. So me and Terrell's aunt, our Aunt Faye, she's passed, rest in peace. She was like my mom. She was like my second mom. I know she was worried about me because here you have someone who's been working on television for 7 years and they're moving back home, moving his wife and 2 kids in with his mother to start a barbecue sauce business. Yeah, I think they thought I was a little crazy. And with that, I also don't think they took me that serious because I had to check my mother-in-law. I had to check my own mother when I go to their house and I see a bottle of Sweet Baby Ray and I'm like, really? Like, really?
Yeah.
Really? Like, this is what you doing? Oh, I was just at the store and I needed some. Well, all you got to do is call me and you could have had a bottle of sauce. And so really, I ain't gonna lie, that it hurt. Like that hurt, is because to me it told me, you don't think what I'm doing. You're not taking me serious. Like, you don't think what I'm doing. Now, they're converted. They will not buy another barbecue sauce, and they're calling me, I need some sauce. So it's cool. But first starting out, that was something I struggled with, man. And not just them, but friends. And I mean, you see me really trying to start this business, and like, you going and buy some inferior product is like a slap in the face to me. I let them know it every time I saw it.
Oh, I love it. I bet they hate to see you coming, boy. They like, he gonna check the kitchen, y'all hide the sauce.
I had a couple people trying to hide it. I see
it. Awesome. Well, it's been a great conversation tonight. April, we didn't have a question for you, but I will say, I want to say thank you to all of you guys for doing what you do. I was reading somewhere, they say, life is made out of leaders, followers, and the people who watch. And I love at Southern Soul when we can get together with those rare people, those people who out there, they're leading it. They can enjoy a comfortable life, but they got something inside of them, you see? They got something that says, I want to do more. And that's why we here at Southern Soul. So make sure y'all spread the word and let them know every Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern, we here, and we're going to take y'all into what we call the soul verse. And the soul verse, I'm going to take you there. It starts with music, and it's some Black excellence. It's people doing their thing. And you got some, trolls out there, but we don't let them in, right? But it's all good people doing good things. But I got to tell y'all about next week. Next week, y'all, it's bring your white friend to Southern Soul. If you're already here, bring the white friend. Because tell you what we're going to be talking about. We're going to have a panel of white folks talking about a couple topics. White fragility. If you heard the term, but you don't know what it means, I'm telling you, we're going to break down white fragility. Detail. And then, I didn't realize this exists. There's a thing out there, it's called white on white support groups for white people who got racist issues and stuff. The white people who go talk to the white people and say, get y'all thing together. Next week, see, at Southern Soul, we mix it up. Any topic that affects the community, we talk about it. Mental health, journalism, the people. So next week, we're just going to get deep into this thing. And I'm telling you why we're getting there. Before 2016, I'm from Texas. I'm like, I know about this stuff. I know about disparities and racism and the have and have-nots. It wasn't until during COVID, 2016, I turned around and read 10 different books. And I said, OMG. This thing goes deep, real deep. It's so deep that everybody born in this country can be guilty of this thing called racism and bias. So we're going to chop it up next week. So it's bring your white friend to Southern Soul next week, and we're going to talk about all the good topics. So, Katie, anything else? I know you like to have the last words. Katie, anything you want to say to the people?
I do love to have the last word. I just wanted to say that I am really inspired by everyone that was on the show this evening, everyone from the chat before in the lounge room, before the show actually got started to now. And the thing I think about is that, we just had a new Supreme Court justice sworn in. And it was one of those things where you think about, for all of us people, brown people, Black people, to see somebody that is our color doing, their own thing is really inspirational. And so, what you guys are all doing tonight, I'm going to be certain that I share it with other people that are younger than us so that they too can see the possibilities for their lives. It's just remarkable every time I see something like this and see the struggles, but know that, so many of us are coming out on the right side of things. So thank you. Congratulations for all you've done and for all you'll continue to do.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. You don't know how I like to do. I like to play some of my daddy's favorite records, you see? And it turned out that my daddy's favorite records are my favorite records. But for the entrepreneurs on tonight, we gotta let y'all know that we are scared of you because y'all doing the thing.
They were awesome.
Oh my goodness. You see, I get so excited, y'all. It's something about Black excellence. Y'all understand. People be like, why he's so happy, right? Y'all don't understand. First of all, I'm about 100 years before my time. So I'm out here in this ecosystem of the metaverse and seeing stuff. And I done traveled it forward in time and I didn't come back. So I'm trying to let y'all know what's out there, right? But people be looking at me like, well, why you doing this? And I'm like, well, I'm telling you, it's beautiful now. So I'm just giving y'all a sample. See, what the future got is some good music. You see what I'm trying to say? It got some black people. They all got nice skin. They shiny. You see what I'm trying to say? They got braids. They got locks. Like April said, you're going to get these locks. You see what I'm trying to say? Yeah, that's the future.
I don't know where you were going with that, but it was lovely.
It don't matter. We can get that.
Thank you for joining us at Southern Soul Livestream Talk Show. Join us weekly at soullivestream.com. If you're joining us live, we'll take a quick music break and then come back for discussion with the audience.